Good evening, everyone. My name is Jeff Croak. I'm the Assistant Director of the Clinton County Veterans Affairs Office. Thank you all for coming to the annual Clinton and Center County Memorial Day ceremony. Unfortunately, Mother Nature bested us again, and we couldn't have the program at the Foster Joseph Sayers Memorial. Luckily, the Beech Creek Wesleyan Church was gracious enough to host our ceremony on short notice. Unfortunately, Rep. Takak went to the wrong location. So we're going to begin, and when he comes in, we'll have him jump in. Okay? I'd like to talk about the holiday itself briefly before we begin. Memorial Day is often misrepresented as non-veterans typically thank veterans for their service on that day. However, this holiday is for all of our veterans that can no longer be with us to thank, only to remember. We gather to remember their sacrifices that they made and those who have paid the ultimate price for American freedom, like our very own Foster Joseph Sayers. Memorial Day actually started as Decoration Day, established on May 5th, 1868 by the Grand Army of the Republic. However, Major General John A. Logan declared it should be on the 30th of May instead. Most believe this date was chosen because typically speaking, the flowers will be in full bloom by this date throughout the country. There were numerous claims as to the starting place of Memorial Day. From Columbus, Mississippi on April 25th, 1866. Both Macon and Columbus, Georgia hold claims as well. Richmond, Virginia, Carbondale, Illinois, and our very own Boalsburg, Pennsylvania. All locations starting ceremonies during springtime, 1866. Altogether, there were 25 locations throughout the United States that bore claim to the birthplace. However, in 1966, Congress and then President Lyndon B. Johnson declared Waterloo, New York as the official home of Memorial Day, citing that it was the only place known that made it a community event, not just a small group or an organizational ceremony. Memorial Day is a hard pill for some of us to swallow. As Central Pennsylvania is home to a lot of warfighters, Clinton and Center County both have shed a lot of blood in our nation's battles over the centuries. We are a proud area with a proud group of people, with most having a largely patriotic heritage. At this time, before I hand the mic over, I would like to ask everyone, if you will, bow your heads for a brief moment of silence for all those we are here to remember today. Thank you. Now it's my pleasure to introduce Brian Query, Director of the Center County Veterans Affairs Office, for the Center County Welcome.
Thank you, Jeff. They got a whole thing here, and I'm not going to take all your time here, but according to Mr. Ron Davey, I think they started this around 2005 doing this event up here. I'm thinking around 2014, I was invited to it. Saw how nice it was and how the beautiful event. Unfortunately, we can't see the rest of the dam. And I usually I'm always looking for the eagles out there flying around. I mean, you can't beat that unless it's raining, okay, or cold like it is today. But it's always been my honor to kind of come and to be part of this. And I really thank you all for coming. And what better way to start a Memorial Day weekend and then kicking an event off like this with our two counties working together, as we always do, and honoring those vets that paid the full final measure. So again, thank you for coming.
Thank you, Brian. Now, if I can have all those able to, please stand for the presentation of the colors by the Jersey Shore Honor Guard and remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance delivered by Larry Butler of Woodsman's Life, followed by the National Anthem sang by Amy Kowach, veteran of U.S. Army.
time, mark, ready, hold. Prepare to post the time. Rifle bearer. Present arm. Post the color. Order. Arm. Rifle bearer. Order. Arm. Rifle bearer. Port. Arm. About face. Forward, mark. Mark line, mark. Ready, hold. Order, arm. Dismiss.
Would you please join me now in the call of the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleam, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rockets' red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Order,
Thank you for all that. You may be seated. Unfortunately, Reverend Ranker was unable to make it tonight due to his son's graduation. So we have Michael France, the U.S. Navy veteran, with us here to deliver the invocation. Michael.
Thank you, Joe. Thank you, everyone, for coming. Let us pray. Dear Heavenly Father, thank you for this day and those in attendance. Please be with those who couldn't make it. Lord, help us remember the fallen, those who made the ultimate sacrifice for our country. Be with their families and help with healing. Also keep and hold in your arms all other armed service members, foreign and abroad, retired POWs, all veterans. Thank you for their service. Please keep us all safe. Please let no veteran or service member, for that matter, let their efforts be in vain. Be with those that return from service. Help them to heal their physical, emotional, and spiritual wounds. Be with their families and all support all around communities as well. Thank you for our VA reps to help guide the veterans through red tape, navigate the VA, for we all know how fun the government can be. And above all, please be with and guide the world leaders to find peace and prevent wars when they can. Lord, we all pray for peace. In your name we pray. Amen.
Thank you for that and for filling in on such short notice. Next, I would like to welcome Clinton County Commissioner Chairman James Russo.
Hi, I'm the chairman, Clinton County, first term. I didn't write anything down, so I'm going to go from the heart. Veterans Day, we celebrate all the veterans. Memorial Day, we celebrate the guys that didn't come home. The Gold Star mothers, the families, and everybody that really is involved with keeping us free. But I want to just quickly bring up a story that a month ago, I had 10 SEAL family special operation guys here because of the bridge-to-bridge run. We were sitting out on the porch one night, sitting there talking, and Steve Tobos, a really good friend of mine, he said, "Jim, we aren't warriors." He said, "The veterans of War I, War II, Korean War, Vietnam, Storm, Freedom, Cold War." He says, "We have a years of training." He said, "It's $1 million a man to train us. And you have Jack sitting here who was special ops in Vietnam. He'll tell you that. These other kids, 6 weeks of training, and they sent him to war. And men and women. And God bless them." And one more quick story, and I'm going to sit down. I've had an honor to be a part of John Curcio's life in Reno. He was a tail gunner in the B-24 bomber and 35 missions. And I spent the last 3 years of his life with him. And he said, "Jimmy, my father was 80th Division. Mr. Foster, who you have here, was in the 90th Infantry Regiment, and he was killed in France." He said, "Jimmy, I never saw what I did. I was 20,000 feet in the air." He said, "Your dad saw it. The infantry saw it. They went into those cities that we destroyed and picked up the pieces." And when you sit down and you really think about what those young men and women went through at the age of Mr. Sayers was 20 years old. His life was, a third of his life he lived, 2/3 of his life was gone, and he never got to live it. So, you can never, ever, ever take for granted what these guys have done. And I want to say thank you, and it's an honor to be standing up here right now in front of all these veterans. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Now a few words from the remaining Clinton County Commissioner staff. First, Commissioner Jeffrey Snyder.
Thank you, sir. Good evening. I'd like to thank all the special guests that are here with us today, but that includes all of you for taking time to join us as we honor those who have defended our nation. Memorial Day, a time of year that evokes images of flags waving proudly, solemn ceremonies, and most importantly, moments of quiet reflection. It's a day etched into our nation's conscience, a designated time to remember and a time to honor the men and women from all generations who made the ultimate sacrifice in service to our nation. This year, the weight of history feels particularly profound, marked by the 50th anniversary of the end of the Vietnam War and the 80th anniversary of the conclusion of World War II. These milestones offer a powerful lens through which to view the enduring meaning of this day. In the spring and summer of 1945, guns fell silent across Europe, Japan, and the Pacific Islands. The echoes of World War II, the largest, deadliest conflict in human history, still resonates today, We remember the over 40,000 American lives were lost and the nearly 1 million others wounded. Brave soldiers, sailors, airmen, and Marines who stormed beaches, soared through the skies, and faced unimaginable horrors to defend freedom and democracy against tyranny. Their sacrifice in Normandy, Iwo Jima, and Ardennes, and many other places secure a future for generations to come. A future we are privileged to inhabit. The sheer scale of their commitment and the unwavering resolve in the face of overwhelming odds serves as timeless testaments to the power of courage and the cost of liberty. While these two anniversaries represent distinct conflicts separated by time and circumstances, they are united by the common thread of sacrifice that underpins Memorial Day. Whether fighting in the deserts of North Africa, the frozen landscapes of Europe, or the tropical jungles of Vietnam, the men and women we honor today shared a common dedication to duty and a willingness to lay down their lives for something greater than themselves. They came from diverse backgrounds with different hopes and dreams, but they were bound by a shared commitment to the ideals that our nation represents. It is vital that we do more than simply acknowledge these anniversaries. We must actively engage with the lessons they offer. World War II reminds us just how much fragile peace can be, how important global cooperation can be in the face of aggression. We must compel ourselves to reflect on the complexities of war and the profound impact that conflict has on those who serve and their families. Memorial Day is a solemn day for remembering those who laid down their lives in service to our country in every conflict. Let us remember the heroic actions of the legendary units like the Band of Brothers, Easy Company, and the 101st Airborne Division, who fought across Europe in World War II, and the Marines who perished in the Pacific Island hopping campaign. So as we gather at cemeteries, attend parades, and spend time with loved ones this Memorial Day, we should all take some time to thank all of those who lost their lives in service to our country so that we might enjoy the freedoms that we have today. God bless you all, and thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. And last but not least, Clinton County Commissioner Angela Hardy.
I too want to thank everyone who was able to come here today, and I want to thank the organizers for giving me an opportunity to address you. I'm going to take a little bit of a different approach. While I do believe it is very, very important to remember the fallen and those who made those sacrifices, every one of us enjoys the freedoms that were fought by our hero veterans, by those that enlisted not knowing if they would be thrust into the actual fight for democracy. And now more than ever, maintaining our freedoms and the democracy that we love is very crucial. So I would ask, what are we doing? What are we doing? How are we showing our appreciation for those lives that have been lost? We come together at ceremonies. We hang our flags out a few times a year to show that honor. We thank veterans for their service, and all of these are very important. But how do you show your love of country and your appreciation and respect of freedom and democracy and the genuine desire to keep our country, our state, and our community the best that it can be, both in democracy and in freedom? If we all just gave 5% more of ourselves, little tasks, small acts of kindness, respecting all Americans, offers of appreciation for those little acts of kindness that are shown to us, this can be the way that we honor our fallen. This can be the way that all year long, 365 days a year, we make those battles for freedom and democracy worth it. Maybe it's as simple as putting your grocery cart back or letting the car go ahead of you, that you're in a hurry and you really want to get somewhere. Maybe it's just saying hello to a stranger. Maybe it's making eye contact with someone and giving them a kind gesture. Basic acts of decency every single day. And they can be contagious. Life can be hard, it can be overwhelming. We get caught up in our day-to-day, our own trials and tribulations, and sometimes rightfully so. But without the sacrifice of the service that we are here today to honor, the luxury of focusing on our own day-to-day would not be happening. And so it's very clear that we don't always agree on policy, and we don't always certainly agree on the direction for the future and how best to move our country forward. But what we should always agree on is that we are one team. We are the lucky ones, and we are Americans. We have a duty and an obligation to remember that regardless of politics, we are one. And at the end of the day, we defend each other, we support each other, and together we try to make the world a better place. And we do it in honor of all of those who fought to give us the freedoms that we have today. So I will close by saying the next time you find yourself with an opportunity to make a difference, to be kind, to stand up for the underdog, offer time to help, express gratitude, show kindness, and be respectful even when the recipient may not be deserving of that respect, it's a small but actionable item that we can do to thank those who gave us the privilege of being a free American. And so I think it's very important that we come together today, but I also think that this is the best way moving forward in the future that we can honor our veterans and our heroes and those that gave the ultimate sacrifice for our country. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. And now I welcome from Center County's Commissioner Chairman, Mark Higgins.
Thank you. I'd like to thank the Clinton County Veterans Affairs Department for hosting this year, and the Beech Creek Wesleyan Church for hosting us on such short notice. I'm the first of three speakers who live in Center County, but I wanted to acknowledge the other two Center County commissioners who are up here in the front row, Commissioner Concepcion and Commissioner Dersham, and we do have a couple people here from Center County Veterans Affairs, Brian and Sherry, and I think in the way back we've got a representative, Dave, from Center County Transportation. Thank you for gathering here today to honor and remember the brave folks who made the ultimate sacrifice in the service to our country. Across the nation, ceremonies like this are taking place, pausing to reflect on and express gratitude for sacrifices made for our freedom and peace. In our county, this day carries special resonance because we know the caliber of the people who have served from our 35 communities. We know the faces, families, work ethic, and unwavering commitment of our veterans, both those living and those who have passed. Take, for example, Foster Joseph Sayers, Private First Class. Private First Class Sayers fought and died nobly in World War II, earning a Medal of Honor, one of only two in Center County, for what can only be described as possessing an indomitable fighting spirit and supreme dedication to duty, which will live as an example of the highest traditions of military service. It takes a rare kind of person to choose duty over comfort, to risk everything for others, not for glory. Foster Sayers is one example of this kind of rare person, and I'm sure that veterans from our region, alive or not, sought to exhibit the same fighting spirit and supreme devotion. The veterans of central Pennsylvania, especially those we remember today, embody the very best of what it means to be an American. They come from farms and small, tight-knit neighborhoods. They are nurtured by our teachers and community members. They grew up learning the value of hard work, how to be loyal, what it means to care for and stand by your neighbor. Whether serving in the jungles of Vietnam, the deserts of Iraq, the mountains of Afghanistan, and many, many other places around the world, they brought with them not only courage, but the spirit of our county, resilient, humble, and strong. Today, we remember those who never came home. and we hold their families in our hearts. Their legacies live on, not only in our monuments and memorials, but in the freedoms we enjoy, the communities we build, and the ways we honor our veterans. Let us honor them by living lives worthy of their sacrifice. Let us speak their names, share their stories, and pass on to future generations the importance of service, sacrifice, and country. Let us honor them by caring for their families and their fellow service members. Consider how you can contribute to your county's Veteran Affairs Department work, making donations, volunteering your time, and assisting with ride services. There will never be a way to adequately and fully repay our veterans, especially the ones we're honoring today. But there are small things we can do to show our gratitude to our veterans. On behalf of the county, I extend my sincere thanks to our veterans, our military families, and most importantly today, our fallen heroes. We will never forget what you gave. We are forever in your debt. Thank you. And may God bless our heroes, our community, and the United States of America. And now I'll introduce Representative Paul Takak, who covers the middle third of Center County, as far south as Harris Township, containing Boalsburg, the birthplace of Memorial Day, and as far north as Burnside Township. Representative Takak.
You took my notes. No, just kidding. Good evening. It's a pleasure to be with you again this year. Thank you for this opportunity to say a few words. Memorial Day is a lot of things, but most importantly, it's a solemn reminder that we must honor the sacrifice of those who gave everything in defense of our country and of our freedom. As we all know, these are times of great political polarization, as well as selfishness and greed. A time when some of our so-called leaders disrespect those who served, even those who've been lost. That attitude of entitlement and ingratitude deserves nothing but our contempt and disdain. Those who gave their lives in pursuit of the great and noble cause of protecting and preserving our Constitution and our democracy are worthy of our greatest respect and admiration. They left the comfort and safety of home to travel the world, to protect us, and to liberate others from tyranny and oppression in all of its ugly forms, from fascism and totalitarianism to terrorism and extremism. They fought to secure the freedom of the many from the oppression of the few. And like Foster Sayers Sr., many fought and fell with almost unimaginable valor. They died in defense not only of their brothers and sisters in arms beside them, but for everyone they left at home and for their abiding belief in the promise of America. Memorial Day is a reminder that we are the beneficiaries, the inheritors of that service and sacrifice. And to be reminded again that freedom was not ever and is not now free. Therefore, it falls to each of us to be custodians of their proud legacy and to recommit ourselves to continuing the never-ending fight for liberty and justice for all. Amid the celebrations and time spent this weekend with family and friends, we remember that we too are called to our own service to defend freedom and sustain our democracy. And in order to do that, we must remain true to the principles and the ideals that unite us as Americans. I've said it many times before, and I will keep saying it. There is so much more that unites us than divides us. And what unites us as Americans are the principles and values that we hold most dear. Not only our shared values like hard work, honesty, decency, and integrity, but our fundamental civic values. That although we all originally came from different places, speaking different languages, and worshiping as we pleased, we are all Americans, together as one. Next year, we celebrate the 250th anniversary of our Declaration of Independence in 1776, right here in Pennsylvania. And that same year, one of our lesser-known founding fathers, a Swiss-born Frenchman named Pierre-Eugène Duzimetière, first proposed the now famous Latin phrase that has become the unofficial motto of the United States and which embodies this concept. E pluribus unum. Out of many, one. A phrase that helped forge, in the words of Abraham Lincoln 87 years later, a new nation conceived in liberty and dedicated to the proposition that all men are created equal. And so while many of us proudly embrace our cultural heritage and keep alive our diverse customs and traditions, what has always made us Americans and what continues to unite us is that belief in the promise of America, the yearning for freedom, liberty, and opportunity, and a better future for ourselves and for our children. That is, for me, much of what Memorial Day means. So let us now together reaffirm our commitment to always remember, honor, and respect those who have fallen in order to provide us with that precious and irreplaceable gift. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Takak. Unfortunately, Representative Borowicz, her son is graduating. She was unable to attend. For our next speaker, I'd like to welcome U.S. Congressman Glenn G.T. Thompson.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Thanks for the invitation. Well, good evening, everyone. First of all, God bless our fallen heroes. And God bless their family members who've paid such a sacrifice for our nation by the actions, the selfless actions, and the service of their loved ones who lost their lives in the service of this country. I had the privilege of growing up with a close neighbor, Foster Sayer's wife, who, I don't know, she should have got hazard duty because I think from time to time she served as her babysitter. And Ellen. And in fact, I really credit Ellen with launching my healthcare career. She had worked at Centercrest Nursing Home, and she was very instrumental when I was 18 years old of getting a job at Centercrest, working 11 at night to 7 o'clock in the morning. Yeah, we miss her. And when I was small child, never had, really didn't know about her husband's service and sacrifice until I got to be an adult. And for our family, just about a month before Penny and I were to be married in the end of November 1980, I still remember where I was and when the phone call came in. And it was Penny calling me that her brother, Lieutenant Commander Larry Ammerman, was killed when his Navy helicopter crashed. And so I think we all have stories like that. We tell the service and the sacrifice of those great American heroes. So altogether fitting that we gather here to remember them and to pay tribute and to give thanks. You know, Memorial Day is a sacred day in the life of our nation. And it's a time to honor these brave men and women of our armed forces who made the ultimate sacrifice in defense of our freedoms. These heroes, our sons and daughters, brothers and sisters, parents and friends, laid down their lives not for the glory, but for us, for the ideals we hold dear, for the country that we love. Let us begin by recognizing those who have worn the uniform and paid the highest price. We are forever indebted to them and their families. Today is not just a holiday, it is a promise to never forget. We gather here at this special time to observe Memorial Day and honor the legacy of certainly of many, but specifically above them, one extraordinary young man in Private First Class Foster Joseph Sayers. I know many of you already knew his story, but we've been proud to hear it today. That on November 12, 1944, during a fierce battle near Thionville, he charged a German machine gun nest alone, drawing fire away from his unit and enabling his company to advance, capture the enemy position, and ultimately save countless lives. Private Sayers was mortally wounded in the act, but his courage and his selflessness earned him our nation's highest military honor, the Medal of Honor. He symbolizes the best in this country has to offer, and his story reminds us that freedom is never free. It is earned through acts of extraordinary service. As an Army dad myself, I carry a deep personal respect for every man and woman who serves in our military. I understand the pride and often worry that comes with watching a loved one step forward to protect our nation. And it is that respect that drives me every day in Congress to fight for those who wear the uniform, past, present, and future. During my time in Congress, I proudly supported legislation to strengthen and support for our veterans, active duty personnel, and Gold Star families. From increasing mental health services, improving VA access, securing pay raises for our troops, and funding the tools that they need to succeed, we prioritize ensuring no soldier, sailor, airman, Marine, or Coast Guard is left behind. We also work to pass laws that honor the legacy of those who never came home, like expanding national cemeteries and continuing the search for our missing in action. I was honored to be in Warren, Pennsylvania last week on a Saturday evening when the remains of one such World War II veteran were brought home on the way to Venango County, where he was raised. Remembrance is not a once-a-year event, it is a lifelong commitment. And to the family of Foster Sayers and to all families who've lost a hero, we will never forget. Your loved ones live on in our hearts, in our flag, and in the freedoms we cherish each and every day. May God bless you, may He bless our fallen, and may He continue to bless this great nation, the United States of America. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Congressman. Next, our keynote speaker is the Director of the Clinton County Veterans Affairs, U.S. Army Colonel retired, Todd Warner. I'll now read his bio. Retired Army Reserve Colonel Todd Warner was born on Memorial Day in 1964. He grew up in Port Matilda and graduated from Bald Eagle Area High School in 1982. In 1986, Todd graduated from Penn State with a Bachelor of Arts in Broadcast Journalism and was also commissioned as a U.S. Army Reserve Second Lieutenant in the Quartermaster Corps. He was assigned to the 442nd Field Service Company in Bellefonte from 1986 to 1992. After graduating from the Quartermaster Officer's Basic course in 1987, Todd served as a platoon leader with Joint Task Force Bravo in Honduras. He returned to Bellefonte in June of 1988 and assumed command of the 442nd while he was still a second lieutenant. He was promoted to first lieutenant in May of 1989. From September 1990 until May of 1991, he led the soldiers of the 442nd through their deployment to Operation Desert Shield and Desert Storm. He was promoted to captain in April of 1991 and remained in command of the 442nd until February of 1992. From March of 1992 to December of 1996, Todd served as a staff officer at the 327th Corps Support Battalion in Williamsport. From January 1997 to June of 2003, Todd served in the Army Special IMA program as a Director of Operations at the 597th Transportation Terminal Brigade in Sunny Point, North Carolina. He was promoted to Major in April of 1998. From June of 2003 to May of 2006, Todd served as the Executive Officer of the 475th Quartermaster Group in Farrell, Pennsylvania. He served on active duty for 545 days from October 2004 to April 2006 and was deployed to Southwest Asia from December 2004 to October 2005. He was promoted to Lieutenant Colonel while deployed to Operation Iraqi Freedom in December 2004. Todd was awarded a Bronze Star Medal in July of 2005. From May 2006 to September 2009, Todd commanded the 402nd Quartermaster Battalion in Newcastle, Pennsylvania, with leadership responsibility for over 1,200 Army Reserve soldiers and 12 units across Pennsylvania and West Virginia. In October 2009, Todd was assigned to the Army G4 Logistics Staff at the Pentagon. He was promoted to Colonel in the Pentagon in June of 2010. He graduated from the U.S. Army War College at Carlisle Barracks, Pennsylvania in July of 2011. He continued serving on several different Pentagon staff assignments and teams until he retired in June 2016 with 30 years of service. Todd became the Clinton County Director of Veterans Affairs in February of 2023. Todd and his wife Elaine got married in 1988 and have lived in Howard since 2007. They have 5 daughters, 4 sons-in-law, and 7 grandchildren. Ladies and gentlemen, Colonel Todd Warner.
So, I'm honored to be here. What I'm going to say, I actually kind of finalized in my head 20 minutes after I stopped talking to Foster yesterday morning at the Howard Unimart at 5 to 6 when I was on my morning walk, and he was in there doing whatever he does at 6 a.m. every morning. So I've been to a number of events over the years because I'm old. I've been to Veterans Day events, school assemblies in honor of Veterans Day, military weddings, military funerals, and a lot of Memorial Day events, quite a few of them. And what I want to talk about tonight is my journey through what is Memorial Day and what I think of. And there's 2 words that no matter which event, what venue I've been at, 2 words always come back that stick with the essence of Memorial Day in my view. Those words are in either order, local and personal, or personal and local. That said, I would caution the group that there's also a lesson learned, one that I've learned multiple times, and I'll reference them a couple of times when I speak tonight. But when you speak at an event like this, you never quite know who is going to be in the audience. And that's something I've learned in interesting ways over the years. So personal and local, what does it mean? Well, it means that every service member that's been lost in combat had somebody, had a family back home, had friends, had a community. It's personal and it's local. And, you know, as Congressman Thompson said, he lost his brother-in-law. Everybody has a personal local connection, even if they don't realize it, and maybe even if they didn't know the person who sacrificed their life. So I'm going to step us through with little snapshots of real people, local and personal, from World War I through the War on Terror. When I was a 12-year-old Boy Scout, it was 1976, and I was a member of Troop 59 in Port Matilda, and we met at the American Legion, the 2nd floor. The Legion Club and all that stuff was downstairs. And my grandmother at the time, my grandmother on my dad's side, lived a couple blocks away from us. And she asked me, do you know who your Legion building, where your Boy Scouts meet, who it's named after? I said, yeah, there's a plaque down there. It says Wilson Patton. Wilson Patton. So she suddenly, her demeanor changed. Now, at the time, I think back, at the time my grandmother would have been 72 years old, and I was 12. And up until that point, as Jeff referenced, I was actually born on Memorial Day, 1964, May 30th. Up until that point, Memorial Day to me meant I was getting a birthday cake, and it would have flags all over it, and maybe little soldier characters, or if my dad had his way, Navy stuff on the cake. But as that bicentennial celebrations for July were approaching, my grandmother asked me, "Do you know who your building's named after?" No. Is there a picture of him on the wall? No. And then she got tearful. Here's the story. 25 days before the armistice was signed on November 11th, 1918, Wilson Patton from Port Matilda died in France. And he lived 3 houses. The oldest child, he was the oldest brother, but he was the oldest child in a very large family. He lived 3 houses from my grandmother's house, the house that she spent her entire life in. His younger sisters, Marnie, was 3 years older than my grandmother, and Edie was a year younger. And when you talk about emotion, my grandmother, to the day she died, she would tell you without hesitation that the worst crying, screaming, and wailing that she ever heard haunted her from the time she was 14 years old, when the family of her dear friends in her neighborhood got word that their older brother had died in France. That's who Port Matilda's American Legion post is named after, and a place where I dropped too many fly balls in right field as a little league ball player in Port Matilda, the cemetery, he's buried right behind the right field fence. That is the final resting place of Wilson Patton. World War II. 2 years ago when I got this position as the director in Clinton County, Commissioner Ann Harding, right here, came to Jeff Croak and I after I'd been on the job maybe 6 weeks. She said, "You're going to be contacted by a lady in Renova named Mrs. Wilson. She needs help researching military histories of World War II vets." Big project the Renova community and Bucktail School were undertaking. Jeff and I thought we were going to look up records on 8 or 10 people and be done. Turned out we ended up looking up about 65 of them. And for the purposes of this, I said, well, let's figure out how we want to sort these people's records. But one name stood out. It was a last name. It was Hritzko. You know, a good mountain name. Hritzko. 4 brothers, 3 sisters. 1 family, Renova. Probably all born at the wrong time because they were all born into the greatest generation. The 4 brothers, the 4 sisters, all married guys who served in World War II. But the 4 Hritzko brothers, the mission was to find these World War II vets. What happened to them? The oldest 2 brothers we found. They had lived long lives after the war, and both had served in Italy and survived the landings at Anzio, horrific, gruesome experiences in Italy, the march north during World War II. They'd come home to Renova, got married, raised kids, and both of them were buried in the same cemetery, not far apart beside their wives in northern Clinton County. The 4th brother had a really similar story, except he was buried in Lycoming County because the wife he married was from Loyalsock. We couldn't find the 3rd brother for about a day. Then we found him right here. We found Andrew H. Hritzko. That's the inscription. You can see there's something on that paper. You can look at it later if you want. That's the inscription. Here's the white cross, and the scene is Normandy. And what the inscription says is Andrew H. Hritzko, Tech Sergeant 5, 508th Parachute Infantry Regiment, in one of the most famous dates in history, June 6, 1944, Pennsylvania. We found him. So in November of 2023, Commissioner Harding told me I was good to go and speak at the Renova, the Bucktail High School Veterans Day Assembly. And I simply told that story to an absolutely packed gymnasium. at the little high school in Renault. And afterward, my wife and two of my daughters and two of my granddaughters were there in the back. I was trying to make my way through the crowd when it was over, and a lady about 80 years old came up to me, tear, said, "Thank you so much." She was the daughter of one of the two Ritzko brothers who was buried in North Bend, okay? She said, "I'm really grateful to you for mentioning our family today," because I didn't know them. I never heard of them before we did this project. She said, "And thank you so much for talking about Uncle Herbie, Andrew H. Ritzko. His middle name was Herbert." Jeff and I didn't know that either. She said, we were always told how much fun it would have been if we'd have got to meet Uncle Herbie. He died when he was 20 in Normandy. And we'd have had another set of cousins because he would have surely come back and gotten married and had kids like the rest. Personal and local, okay? In Center County in World War II, I chose this. This was even personal and local to me. This is Floyd Roy and Leon Ralph Williams, buried side by side at the Presbyterian Cemetery, right along 150 when you go into Port Matilda, about a mile on this side to Light. Their only sister, an older sister, but also their only sister, was my next door neighbor from the time I was born until she actually passed away in her 90s, about 20 years ago. The Williams boys in the cruelty of war died on February 26th and March 23rd, both in Germany. Both in Germany. Their sister, who I knew my entire life, was a retired third grade teacher in the Bowling Green School District, taught in Port Matilda, and always became stoic and quiet this time of year. I never knew their story until I was 15. And the reason I learned their story is that, like Foster Sayers, they were originally interned in Europe, and then they were brought back and repatriated to the U.S. Same thing with these two, the Williams brothers. They were brought back and buried just up the valley from where Foster Sayers rests today. But 9 months and 20 days after they were buried in 1948 in the Presbyterian Cemetery, their older sister had twin boys. One of them still alive. The other one died 3 years ago, Roy and Ralph Stiver. What are the odds? I'd say somebody up there knows the odds. Nobody down here. Personal and local. Korean War. They call the Korean War the Forgotten War. In the Pentagon, Congressman Thompson can tell you, because he came to that promotion of mine in 2010, and he sat in the front row. Corridor 5 and 6, where they split off, that's the memorial there is not called the Forgotten War, it's called the Forgotten Victory, because it did what it set out to do, ultimately. So the Korean War is a little different. Between the two counties, we had 27 service members lost. 7 from Center, 20 from Clinton, okay? 27 in total. But here's why that's a horrific story. In the Korean War, which was a 3-year war, 53,000 young Americans died. In 11 years in Vietnam, 58,000 died. 53,000 in 3 years in Korea. So you find a story. In Center County, the story is Andrew Swires, who's buried in a cemetery in Moose Run, the first cemetery, as you drive up Moose Run outside of Milesburg. He died in 1951, an infantry soldier killed in action. His family, extended family, cousins and relatives and nephews that never knew him, tried for years to get something named in his honor in Center County. Some suggested the Milesburg Bridge, others suggested other things, and that didn't happen. But he rests there. In Clinton County, John Wadsworth was killed early in 1950. He was killed early in the war. He was killed in what is today North Korea. When MacArthur made the big move and cut them off, everybody that studies history knows that. He's never been brought home. Never been brought home. Remains unable to be recovered. So, in light of that, his family, years ago, when DNA became a thing, his family has their DNA on record. In the event that we ever get to go into North Korea and find him and the other several thousand that were lost. And I say that because the 27 that died in the Korean War between the two counties, an astounding 45% of them died either as missing and not recovered or in the horrors of a prisoner of war camp. And you have to think about that. It's personal and it's local everywhere you go. So, we go to Vietnam. When we were getting ready for this event 2 years ago, Miles Kessinger, who was the commissioner in chair in Clinton County at the time, actually got kind of quivery and emotional a week or so before this ceremony because he mentioned, in Vietnam, Center County had lost 19, Clinton County lost 20 young people in that war. And he told me that the story of James Mays, a young soldier from Mill Hall who had, quote, hung out and tried to work some around the garage that Mr. Kessinger's dad owned. Well, of ironies and cruel ironies would have it, James Mays became the first Clinton County of the 20 to die. And he died 21 years to the day, November 12th, 1965, that Foster Sayers died in France. What are the odds? Personal and local. Also in Clinton County, later before that event, I talked to Kathy Merrill, who worked in the assessment office. She was just a 9-year-old girl when her 20-year-old brother died in April of 1970 in Vietnam, Charles Merrill. Today, he's buried in Jersey Shore, but he's listed on our Clinton County plaque. And for her, I asked her at the time 2 years ago, how did your mother ever deal with that? She said, well, my mom's still alive. She's 91. This was 2 years ago. And she said, she never got over that ever. You never get over that. But she had a lot of children. Okay. At the end of March, just less than 2 months ago, we had a Vietnam Veterans Luncheon in the Piper Building in Lock Haven. And Kathy Merrill was there with her husband. And I asked her, I hadn't seen her because she'd retired from the county, I asked her, how's your mom doing? She said, we lost her last year. And then she gave me a hug and she said, but now she finally got to see my brother again. What do you say to that? Say much. In Center County, Major Lou Smith, his story is pretty well known. He was shot down in 1968 on my 4th birthday, Memorial Day, 1968. So I was somewhere in this valley having cake with flags on it. And in Belfont, a family was losing their 25-year-old son in Laos, and he was never recovered. I talked about a mother's love in 2012 when I spoke at the courthouse in Belfont on the steps. And the mother I was talking about was Betty Smith, his mom. I didn't know her well, but what I did know, she was one of those people that constantly acted kindly toward people. And she brought the bloodmobile to my reserve unit twice a year, every 6 months in Belfont and Bishop Street, when they get blood donors from the public or from the reserve soldiers there. She never gave up. Her son was missing. This was in the 1980s, late 80s, so he'd been gone for 20 years, and she was involved with all the POW MIA organizations she could be involved with. She ended up dying 10 years later, a very, very kind lady. That was in 1998 that she died. When 2012, I told that story on the courthouse steps. Beautiful Memorial Day, absolutely dazzling, 80 degrees, looking out over a huge crowd at the Diamond in Belfont. After it was over, a lady approaches me. I still can remember what she looked like. Big sunglasses, looked at me and said, Colonel Warner, thank you so much for talking about my mother. I'm Lewis Smith's youngest sister. And I can't thank you enough for bringing our family up today, but you missed one part of the story. Okay, I want to know what I missed. She said, our mom died, never knew what happened to him. His remains have never been found, but we do have some measure of closure. One of those forensic teams that they send from Honolulu over to the Middle East or wherever, Southeast Asia, to find crash sites and such, actually finally brought home one thing, his Penn State class ring. after all those years. So we now have that. Personal and local. That family's love has never given up. If you go to the Grange Fair this year and go inside Gate 4, you'll see that the 4 sisters and the brother that are still here, younger siblings of Major Lewis Smith, put together a great effort. And inside Gate 4, there's a brand new POW MIA and all-service veteran memorial. Beautiful. And I believe Congressman Thompson was the speaker at that dedication last July. Personal and local. Now, I know I'm not going to run out of time here. I got 2 more wars, right? So Desert Storm came around, and everybody here thought it was a bloodless war. General Schwarzkopf gave his briefings. The smart bombs hit the bridge. I didn't see any of that till after we got home, because we get over there in October and we didn't come home till the middle of April. The little reserve unit from Bellefonte had a whole lot of local people, local men and women in it. So you think it was a bloodless war, and you think we didn't stub a toe, and that's true. About the worst thing we had were like severe stomach ailments on and off over there because of the food and the vermin and the dirt. But we came home generally intact, did our job. On February 25th, the day the ceasefire was declared, a Scud missile hit a barracks in Dhahran, Saudi Arabia. Some of you may remember that. It killed 13 Army reservists, all of them from Pennsylvania, mostly western Pennsylvania. One of them was Alan Craver, who was from Penn Hills, just on this side of Pittsburgh. However, from 1985 to May of 1990, Alan Craver was a member of the 442nd Field Service Company in Bellefonte. 5 months, 3 months before Iraq invaded Kuwait, he transferred out of our unit for a unit closer to home, and he joined the 14th Quartermaster in Greensburg. So all of his former unit mates that he served with for 5.5 years were in that desert for months, and in support of the 101st Airborne Division, and God decided we'd never stub a toe. He was in Saudi Arabia 5 days and got killed when a warehouse got hit by a Scud missile. That news of him dying came to us because one of my local soldiers, Greg Fravel, common last name around here, I sent him out to find a phone bay. He found one. He called his wife, and she told him the Center Daily Times was saying that Alan Craver, who used to be in your unit, died over there. He came back. It hit our soldiers like a ton of bricks. All right? That wasn't the worst thing that happened. This is a tombstone in Arlington National Cemetery. I'm going to read it. First female combat commander to fly into battle. Operation Desert Storm. In memory of my sweet little wife, whose beauty could only be outlived by my love for her. That was signed by Chief Warrant Officer John Clayton. His wife, Marie Rossi, died on March 1st, 1991, along with 3 of the 4 crewmen that were in her Chinook helicopter. Now, how is that local in person? She was from New Jersey. Well, I'll tell you how. Her helicopter crashed just east of Rafah, Saudi Arabia. The only U.S. troops within 8 miles of it that night were the 442nd from Bellefonte, Pennsylvania. That crash, that helicopter hit an unlit microwave tower. You can Google the story of it. It's all over. It hit an unlit microwave tower and broke apart about 250 feet above the ground. Incredibly, one soldier lived. 1 died at the scene, Major Rossi, and 2 others were dead when 16 members of this little reserve unit that hadn't stubbed a toe got there as the first responders, and the only responders for almost 4 hours. In Lock Haven, if you don't think it's personal and local, go to the new Veterans Memorial in Lock Haven off Water Street. I encourage you to. They did a beautiful job with that, and they cover every war. And near the far end, the more recent wars, they have Desert Storm. And on there are the names of 6 Clinton Countyans, all of whom had children in the Keystone Central School District when we deployed. One of those, again, didn't stub a toe. One of those soldiers, the first one listed, is now deceased. He's retired Master Sergeant Barry Hill from here, Beech Creek. Beside his name, it says, and they did a great job with that memorial, awarded Soldier's Medal for heroism. Barry Hill from Beech Creek pulled Major Rossi's body out of that Chinook. The Soldier's Medal for Heroism award, narrative, and citation was drafted by me. If you don't think it's personal and local, I don't know what more I can say, except it always hits home even more. In May of 2005, I opened an email to send something to my wife from the Middle East, where I was stationed, as Jeff said, in a pretty secure place at the time. The first email I got was a group email, and I'm sure Lloyd Rhodes got it too, because it came from Dan Fisher, the superintendent of schools in Bald Eagle and a retired Navy Reserve captain. And it started out saying, sad news, subject. And then it said, yesterday, somebody else's war came home to us. Lloyd, remember? And Andy Jadun, Sergeant Andy Jadun, died May 12, 2005 in Iraq. So in 2007, I was asked on very short notice to speak at the Advent Cemetery above Milesburg, Moose Run, I think. Yarnell, I don't know. Les would know where that's at. He would know what the exact address is. But I got there, and at the time, we hadn't quite yet moved to Howard. We were living in my grandmother's old house in Pine Glen, so we stopped at the Andy Jadun Memorial that morning at the ball field in Burnside Township. Big, black, beautiful stone with everything dedicated to Sergeant Jadun. I spoke and I talked about how beautiful the morning was and how just 45 minutes ago we'd stopped in Pine Glen and I looked at Sergeant Jadun's memorial. Maybe I shouldn't have, but I'm glad I did. Two older ladies had their arms around a little bit younger lady, 20 feet from me to Foss away. And the cemetery had people scattered all over. The more I talked about that, the more upset they seemed to get, the more emotional they got. When it was over, the older lady, was on the right side as I looked at them. The three of them kind of walked forward. And she said to me, "Sir, meet Sandy. This is Andy Jadun's mom." 20 feet from me. I didn't know that. No idea. I knew who his dad was. I knew his parents had been divorced. I had no idea who his mom was. And there she was at the ceremony that I actually was a pinch hitter speaking in. So you never know who's going to be there. But one thing you can count on is that Memorial Day is always personal and local. And if anybody needs a further reminder, that picture is famous. If you can see it. Where we would have been tonight had the weather been good, if that memorial or that grave site at Shanks doesn't speak personal and local, nothing will. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Typically at this time, if we were at the memorial, we would lay the wreath and unveil the bricks. However, thanks to the weather, we're inside. I welcome all of you to go to the memorial to look at the bricks. Anybody that is interested in obtaining a brick for themselves or a loved one, speak to one of the gentlemen in the purple and one of the ladies. They will help you with the information in order to purchase a brick. In closing, I just want to thank all of you for coming today to remember the veterans that have paid the ultimate price for our country, our freedom, and our way of life. Also, please remember this time of year, if you visit the grave of a veteran and see coins on their headstone or marker, please let them be. Each coin has a meaning to the one that left them and the one that was unable to receive them. Penny is left every time someone pays a visit to a gravesite. A nickel is from someone that went to boot camp with them. A dime is for someone that served with them. And a quarter means they were there at the end. At this time, if you are able, I will again ask you to rise for the benediction by Michael France, U.S. Navy veteran. Then please remain standing as the Jersey Shore Honor Guard retires the colors. Following, there will be a rifle volley, taps, and then our bagpipes. Michael.
Heavenly Father, please keep us safe this weekend as we honor those who had fallen. Please humble us with reminders of why we are the country that we are. Please help us to be better in our own endeavors, better as a country, better as patriots. Help us be better and more understanding towards our fellow men. Be with those who have fallen and those who've had someone close to them that has fallen. Many of us have different interactions in our lives. And Lord, you work in mysterious ways. Please be with us. Keep us safe and remind us of who we are. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen.
Amen.
Honor Guard.
Mark. Ready? Prepare to retrieve the colors. Right here. Present. On. Retrieve the colors. Right there. Order. Arm. Port. Arm. About face. Forward. Arm.
You may be seated. Thank you to Master Sergeant Monica Anderson, U.S. Army, for playing taps, and Air Force Sergeant John McMillan, Vietnam, for the bagpipes. Lastly, I would like to thank our guest of honor, Amber Conception and Steve Dersham, commissioners from Center County, Brian Query, and Sherry Nearhood from the Center County Veteran Affairs Office, Stephanie Borwicks and Chris Dush, who could not be here with us this weekend. Again, Stephanie's son is graduating, and Senator Dush's son is set to deploy on Monday. And then Command Sergeant Major retired John Jones for his help with the Center County office. I would also like to say thank you to Frank, the photographer, U.S. Navy, Vietnam, the Howard Lions Club for helping put all this together, American Legion Post 623 Beech Creek for the flag donations at the memorial, Beech Creek Blanchard EMS for being on standby today in the event of an incident, Paul Comfort for the generator, and Wes Lomison for the sound system, even though we didn't use them today, and Central PA Reynolds for the chairs, again, that we didn't use. And lastly, to the Beech Creek Wesleyan Church for being such a great host on such short notice. Also, to all of you in attendance, thank you for your time, thank you for coming, and thank you for being here with us to remember our fallen. Everyone, I wish you a safe weekend in your travels and the best Memorial weekend that you can have. Thank you.